need a haircut. Good morning and happy weekend, happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US. Today we're going through one of my sample mobility routines from my new course, the Mobility Reset. It's free to follow along with to give you a taster of the course. The course is something I've been working hard on for the past few months, and it's something I'm really proud of and excited to share with you. Perhaps even better than that, if you are watching this video on the 24th, Black Friday weekend 2018, Mobility Reset is included with the No Meat Athlete Black Friday health and fitness bundle. I'm not necessarily a big advocate of the whole Black Friday thing and buying a lot of things for the sake of buying them, but this is an amazing chance to invest in your health and fitness and really set the foundation for the new year as well. As well as the Mobility Reset, the bundle includes more than 30 different guides, strength training plans, there's marathon roadmaps, cookbooks and nutrition plans from some of the top creators in the health and fitness space. All in all, it's supposed to cost more than $1.5 grand, but it's available for $95 for this weekend only. I think it ends on Monday or Tuesday. On top of all that, if you purchase the bundle through the link in the description box below, I'm also throwing in a couple of bonuses as well. So you'll also have access to my Healthy Habits 101 course, and I'm going to pick 3 people at random who get the chance to have an online mobility and movement assessment with me for free. So all you have to do is purchase the bundle, then drop me an email with a copy of your receipt, and you'll get those bonuses. Mobility Reset will be launched outside of the bundle in a couple of weeks' time as well. Hope you enjoy the routine. Have a great weekend. Happy mobilizing. Today we are revisiting the pelvic and lower back area. So one common complaint with lower back issues and sort of pelvic issues is that the lower back feels almost compressed. It feels like there's not much space and everything is kind of dumping down. There's a lot of tension in that area. This is sometimes accompanied by what feels like tight hamstrings. Often the hamstrings aren't necessarily tight, they're just screaming because they're constantly in a stretched position. So in this session, we're going to relax those hamstrings a little bit, give them a little bit of relief, and then we're going to do a little bit of decompression work through the spine. Essentially, we're looking to create the sensation of having more space. So you're in less pain and your hips have more freedom of movement. So grab your ball and let's get going. Starting as always with our baseline assessment. So we're looking at the pelvis today, again seeing how that feels to start with. How does it feel to tilt anteriorly, posteriorly? Can we find that neutral position? There's no right or wrong answer, just seeing where we are today and our baseline. Throughout the exercises we're doing, I want you to think about your pelvis as the base of a hot air balloon, and then your thorax, your ribs, are the balloon. So we're trying to create a sense of lift through the upper body. So that helps to take a lot of the pressure off the lower back and the pelvis. We can also examine our hip hinge, so keeping our legs straight, and our core braced. How easy is it for us to bend over? We're going to be looking at the hamstrings, so hopefully this should improve. And then, of course, our squat position. How does that feel today? We got any stiffness there, any differences side to side? Just having a play around, seeing where we are. Hopefully we'll see some improvements over the next 10 minutes. I'm going to start by doing a simple release in the high hamstring and the glute area. So grab your favorite ball, and then we're going to be releasing kind of this high part of the hamstring here, and then going above that sit bone onto the glute a little bit as well. So we're sitting on a chair or something firm for this one. We're going to place the ball to start with in kind of that deep groin area. So it's a bit of a sensitive one. We're just at that junction where the hamstring and the adductors meet, just in front of the sit bones. So we're just kind of gliding from side to side, scrubbing the tissue, applying our weight down. You can see I've got my hands on the bench and sort of pulling my weight down into that, and we're just scrubbing from side to side and tracing the bottom of that sit bone. So we're on the hamstring at the moment, we're not up on the glute muscle, so the big muscle on the back of your leg, and as it kind of inserts before that bony bit of your bum. So we're just gliding from side to side, making our way towards the outside of our leg. We can also play with flexing and extending the leg as well here. So that really adds another dimension to it and can unglue some of that stiffness there. So just shifting our weight to the side a little bit more. So the ball, you can see, is poking on the outside now. Then we're going to put it on the other side of the sit bone. So this is more now into the glutes. You can see I'm leaning back a bit more now. So we're in the bottom part of that glute muscle. And as I start to glide out to the side with that one, you can put that leg into external rotation and it kind of adds a bit more pressure there. As always, if you find any tight spots, just hang out there for a little bit longer. Don't forget to breathe normally. And just keep tracing that sit bone towards the outside of the hip. So if you always feel like the hamstrings and the back of the legs are quite tight, this is a really useful one. It can also help with lower back pain as well. It's also a great one to add in if you're working towards the front or side splits as well. So let's switch over to the left side now. So again, we're starting on the front side of that sit bone in kind of that deep groin area on the inside of your leg, and we're just kind of scrubbing from side to side. So this is a really good one for doing when you're watching the TV or you're just chilling out. It's quite an accessible one, but it really can have a big impact on your overall sort of control over your pelvis and your general hip mobility. Just keep scrubbing away, following that sit bone away from the center line of the body. Again, if you find any tight spots, don't be afraid to just hang out there for a little minute and just kind of breathe into that area before you move on. Again, we can flex, we can extend to bring a bit of motion into the exercise. It's a really good way to free things up and get everything gliding really nicely. If you're a yogi and you want to improve your down dog and inversions, then this is really a great exercise to add to your practice as well. If you're looking to improve your deadlift or your hip hinge as well, it's also great for that. So let's go ahead and go to the other side of that sit bone. So we're going into the glute now. So we're just tracing that sit bone from sort of the center towards the outside of the hip again. Just scrubbing from side to side, putting our weight down on the ball, just chilling out. Nothing much to do. Just breathing normally, applying that pressure. Again, if you find a tight bit, stay there, don't skip it. Maybe take a big deep breath in and press your weight a bit harder into the ball. You can also play around with your hip positioning, so you go into kind of an external rotation, cross-legged stance. Just rolling forward and back, side to side, whatever works for you, whatever gives you the best response. So I'm going to work on a decompression exercise now with the goal of creating a little bit of space, or the feeling of space, in the lower back and around that sacral area. It's going to be up against the wall for this one. As always, when we're going against the wall, you want to enter the position mindfully. So you can see I'm trying to sit as close as I can to the wall and then kind of roll in towards my left side. So there's quite a few different components to this exercise. Don't worry if you don't remember them all at once. I'll try and go through them as slowly as possible. So we have internal rotation at the hip. So our toes are sort of turning inwards. Then we're pressing the knees, the heels, and then the lower back against the wall, whilst we're bringing our toes towards our body, or towards our mouth. If we're comfortable, we're going to press our arms up and then bend our hands back towards our elbows, or towards the wall. We're also doing our best to reach out through the crown of our head away from the wall. Doing our best to keep our tailbone pushing towards the wall as well. So a lot to think about. Keeping tension then through the core, we're going to slowly raise one arm at a time up overhead. So we want to keep the lower back pressed against the floor as much as we can, whilst we're still reaching the tailbone towards the wall. We're internally rotating at the hips. We're pulling our toes back and down towards our body. So there's a lot to think about. We're also pulling up through the head, so reaching up through the top of the head as if there's a string pulling us away from the wall. So slowly release, have a little rest, try and digest everything, and then we're going to have another quick go at that. So again, really think about those lines of tension. We're internally rotating so the toes are facing inwards. We're pressing our knees, our bum, and our heels against the wall. We're pulling our toes towards our body. At the same time, we're keeping our core active. We're still breathing, keeping our back flat to the floor. And we're thinking about that string reaching up through the top of our head, the crown of our head pulling us away from the wall that way. So we got that traction through the spine. Then reaching the hands up towards the ceiling, peeling the fingers back. When you're ready, you can slowly lift one arm at a time above your head. Really trying to keep the ribs down now on this stage. It's really important, keeping the lower back as flat to the floor as possible. Really pulling those toes towards your body, pressing the knees against the wall, pressing the bum against the wall. Still breathing, still keeping tight through that core, reaching your head up. Just a couple more seconds and then we'll let go. Just a few more. Keep pulling. And when you're ready, ease off that tension a little bit. And we're going to come back to just that squat against the wall. I really want to think about being mindful of the dismount now as well. So you can see I'm keeping tight through the core and rolling as one unit as opposed to just letting the hips fall down, which is then going to potentially undo all that nice work we just did. So the last exercise was a great one inspired by the guys at Eldoa. This is another decompression drill similar to what they're doing at foundation training. So we're going to start by getting into a basic hip hinge. So we're rolling the shoulders back and down, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the core, and then we're just going to hinge back as if we're sitting on a chair. Keeping the core tight. I really want you to think about that string reaching up through the crown of your head and then back down through your sacrum as well. So we're really elongating the spine. We're squeezing those shoulder blades together and just breathing deeply into the mid-back and the belly. So a couple of big deep breaths here. We might start to feel a bit of fatigue in the lower back, but that's okay. And then we're going to reach into position 2 if it's comfortable. So we're spreading the shoulder blades apart here. We're still keeping tight through the core. We're just reaching out in front of us. So tight through the core, that length through the crown of the head as well. Reaching up, and then we're going to raise into position 3, which the arms go up overhead. So this is a bit of a challenging one. You don't have to go here if you don't feel comfortable. We're sitting the hips back. We're reaching up as far as we can through the top of the head. Then we go back to that hip hinge and we stand back up. Let's slowly go through that sequence again. So we're setting the shoulders back and down, squeezing the core, squeezing the glutes. Then we're hinging back. So we move at the hips first, then we have a slight bend at the knees. Keeping those shoulder blades pinched together, keeping that length through the top of the head and through your tail. So we're stretching the spine out from both ends. And then we're just holding that core tight and breathing deep into the belly. Really squeezing those shoulder blades, really keeping them back and down. The chest is proud. You can think about screwing your feet into the floor to keep the glutes activated. Then we're going to reach forward if that's comfortable to us. If you want to stay in position 1, that's completely fine too. So we're reaching out, we're keeping that chest up, keeping the core switched on, keeping that lift through the crown of the head and through the tailbone. And then if you're comfortable to do so, we can go to that overhead position. Again, nice big deep breaths into the belly, into the rib cage, trying to create as much space as we can here whilst we're strengthening the core, strengthening the lower back, strengthening that posterior chain. One last squeeze back and down, and then squeeze your glutes as you come into that top position. Great job with this one. We're just going to check back in now some of those movements and positions we looked at the start, see how those exercises have changed things. So again, we're looking at our pelvic tilt. How are things aligned? How are things feeling? We're just moving side to side, flexing, extending. And perhaps most importantly with this one, how does our hip hinge feel now? So we're keeping our legs straight, keeping our core on and bending down. Is that easier after releasing the hamstrings? Similarly with the squat, how does that feel now that we've freed things up around the hips and around the lower back as well? If you tend towards back pain or stiff hamstrings and you've seen some changes from doing these exercises, then this is one to bookmark and to come back to later. I'll see you in the next video.